Welcome to Ark Gallery in San Jose, California. What I'm here to really talk about is my work in a survey exhibit dated from 1971 to 2018. However, this video is going to simply talk about the beginnings, the foundation of my artwork. I was born and raised in Houston, Texas. I went to Dominican College, and there where I graduated in '73. And in 1971 to '72, I studied at the Dominican College Institute for the Arts in Florence, Italy. I learned charcoal drawing the old Italian traditional way. I did outdoor watercolors independently of my studies. This one's titled Crossroads near Fiesole, which is a small town outside Florence, Italy, and printmaking. By 1973, I started to show with other local artists, and we were working at showing at public libraries to begin with. There were a few places to exhibit our works, and especially for many of the older artists. And so I became the organizers for exhibition in Houston. The Hano Artists was an exhibition that we received our first review, or I received first review from the Houston Chronicle, a major newspaper. So from that time I got involved in the community. I did a variety of works. I was an art director for the Association of Advancement of Mexican Americans, AMA. And by 1976, I organized a show entitled Art at the Hano. So I toured the state of Texas, visiting artist studios, and got a real knowledge, and much of that visiting artist studios, I really I learned a lot, and I think that I acculturated from their works the whole notion about the art of Texas, and that's where the Hano art movement was based on, beginning really in '75, but we started to show and be recognized for it. We got write-ups in Art in America. The show toured. It was first shown at the Houston Public. That is the Houston Power and Lighting Gas Company in downtown Houston, co-sponsored by the Contemporary Art Museum and AMA, and that really opened doors for our work. But when I would look at, and people asked me back then, because I didn't have a full handle in terms of, even though I studied art history, but the whole notion about symbology, symbolisms, and so I created my own. And that was like, here's an example of flying tortillas, and the image of what I would say, or ask you a question, if man did not exist and you were aware of your existence, that God had given you, what form or shape would you take? And this is what I was working with, the whole notion of awareness about the umbilical cord that would connect to a new reality, and the symbolisms. Here's one that's a good example of, it's called Oil South of Texas. It was 1999, but I did this work in 1977. And so some of the imagery that I started to work with included these images that tied in water, both male or female entities, a symbol of self, flying tortillas, the universe, and trying to make the whole connection of my experience in working with artists, being able to kind of make sense of my path. There were a few history books that talked about Chicano art. It was relatively still new in the early '70s, but but the influences that I looked around following a trip to Mexico City was to be introduced to the work of both Frida Kahlo and her better known husband at the time, Diego Rivera. And these pieces I did based on my study of Frida Kahlo. And this predates the publication that came out by Hayden Herrera, who wrote about Frida's life. But we all have our humble beginnings, and I did my independent work on that, but I identified with her life struggle. This is Frida Fantasies. And the one that was got the most recognition was this piece called Frida Pains. And this was shown in two traveling shows. One began in 78, 79. They toured the country, 10 museums, including Mexico City. And this piece, the relevance of this piece, I know there's a lot of reflection here, had to deal with, well, it was my first time I showed these works at the Cyril Campbell Blaffer Gallery of the University of Houston campus. So with that, I spent some time doing some works dealing with that theme, and then that was in 1977. And by 1978, I started to move into this notion of the animation of creating life itself, life not as we know it, but the notion about the creation of what we connect to and making our own lives. And so with that, this whole series called Arte Tejano, it began with initially watercolors. There was 10 of them, and then from that point I did drawings and additional drawings and pastels on paper, and then I worked on larger canvas. So this was in 78, 79, and so that helped me with that series. The result of that was that I showed the launch was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and it got really good reviews, and I was able to tour it through Texas, and the promoter who saw the work basically packaged it, and we sent it all over the country. So this is samplings of my earliest drawings and pastels, and the kind of drawing that I would do to practice the animation of the direction of the imagery as I went along, creating the series. So with that, I wanted to talk about some of this new imagery, and these are pieces. I was in 2 exhibits in the same year, 1982, and that was dealing with images of the Quetzalcoatl. And the Quetzalcoatl followed my experience going to the Teotihuacan pyramids near Mexico City. And from that experience, you know, I explored the imagery of the Quetzalcoatl. And what I came up, for those who might not know, it's a feathered serpent, and it's a serpent of wisdom and a serpent of the wind. And so I wanted to incorporate some of those elements. And so these 2 pieces were shown with 3 other artists together. Us 4, we were Tejano sculptors, and showing in Houston and in Oakland at the International Sculptors Conference. And so with these pieces, we got reviews. That was a really great opportunity to be able to talk about our work. And this is the outdoor piece that was created for actually it was created specifically for the Oakland Public Library, that was up for a few months, along with the artists that showed in Houston, and inside the actual library itself. And Guillermo Pulido had an outdoor piece along with my work. So, and finally, I just wanted to show you samplings of the work, such as, this is 1982, from a trip between, I was commuting between Washington, D.C. and Houston, and in Houston I did all my larger fabrication of work. But this is following, leaving Arkansas, going into Texas, and running into Texas tornado. So, but these are the small beginning sketches and paintings that kind of recalled the experience that we all have in our lives, but how do you visualize it? And so from your own imagination, you do these. So I want to leave you with one, thanking you for visiting the gallery and looking at my work, and understanding that the theme of this exhibit deals with appreciation of my mestizo heritage, which is both my indigenous heritage and my European, Southern European heritage, that would resonate through Mexican culture, and to be able to kind of experience the conflict that I went through to resolve where I'm at today. Thank you for watching.